So now you're thinking, Neville Tynmouth and Mike Lever and one person's got up, is this a split personality? Or he could lose some weight, but he's not that fat, so, you know, you make your own mind up. I'm Mike Lever, pleased to meet you all. I'm going to get to know you a little bit better as the next, well, I think we've got 3 hours, is that right, Jackie? 3 or 4 hours, who's caring about time. We're going to talk about good to great, and we've given you a gift, and you've been very good, you've been very patient, you've sat very nicely, you've clapped nicely, you've asked some questions. It's all going to get changed a little bit. There is going to be interaction, so if you're feeling a sudden need to go to the bathroom, because it's not quite 3:10, is it? But, you know, you need to get away, that's fine. We will kick off, and we will kick off with a little symbol which later on will make sense, I promise you. We're going to talk about the journey from good to great, but let me ask you a question first of all. How would you feel? Can you hear me first of all? That isn't the question I'm going to ask, that's a trick question. The real question is, how would you feel if I told you now that the journey from good to great is a short journey, it's an easy journey, and it's in your control? And there is a gift. Does everybody have a delightfully, beautifully printed gift on their table? Yes, we do, Mike. Good. This is your little map. This is your journey. You make of it what you want to do. We're going to share, Neville and I are going to share a lot of tips with you on how you can go from good to great. They're all practical, they're all tried, they're all tested. I'm glad we have somebody, at least one person in the room, with a degree in psychology. Boo and heckle if I'm saying stuff that is rubbish. It happens most of the time. You can tell I'm going to say rubbish stuff because my lips move. I apologise for those of you on this side of the room, because you've got the Dove projector. I apologise to you lot on this side of the room, because you're closer to me and you can see this, right? But put up with it. Do we have any questions before we start properly? No, get on with it. Okay. We're going to go from good to great. What's really nice is, because we thought at first this was going to be a room full of HR managers. Have we got any HR managers in? Good, we can say all we want to do about HR managers. Do we love HR? We love HR managers anyway, don't we? We love them. We've got a lot of folks here who are students. Has anybody here done anything and passed any exams or passed stuff? I'm not talking about have you passed wind, have you passed things? Yes, you passed exams and tests and stuff. Excellent. Are you feeling shy about putting hands up and talking? Right. We'll soon see about that, won't we? Well, you know when you either have passed an exam or colleagues who you work with, otherwise it wouldn't be colleagues, would they? Or people who you work with have passed exams or have got promotions. Have you ever noticed there is a shift in attitude? And that shift in attitude manifests itself by a change in behaviour. Now, it might be there's that swelling of the chest. Suddenly they walk in with a head a bit more upright. Suddenly they're doing things that you think, hello, what's going on here? But there is definitely a shift in a behaviour for the better. Have you noticed that? Excellent, nodding. Well, imagine if, at will, without the use of hypnosis or dodgy drugs, imagine if you could cause that to happen for yourself, for your team, for your colleagues, for your company, for your customers. Would that be a good thing? Is that a place we want to explore? If you say yes, we'll carry on. If you say no, I don't know what we can do for the next 45 minutes. We'll have a look at some of that. Well, the journey starts in a place that you might not expect, to be honest. We have a psychologist in the room. Neville and I are both economists by degree. I've got any other economists on the room? Yay! There's 3 of us! It's a party! 3 economists means 4 senses of opinion, because we never agree on anything. If you don't believe me, ask the Greeks. So, the journey starts somewhere that you might not expect. But I'm going to show the journey with you, because the journey starts a long time ago in a galaxy far from, no, that's Star Wars, isn't it? It starts about 200 years ago in Scotland, on the east coast, the place Fife. Do you no pressure, but you have to give your degree back. Do you recognise that man? It's Adam Smith. Do you recognise that man? He's good, isn't he? That is Adam Smith. Why does it start with Adam Smith 200 years ago in Scotland? How can this be? It's because Adam Smith is the father of modern economics. And it was us fancy Dan economists, because we're a right fun lot, we thought, well, what is it that causes people to do stuff? Now, they didn't dress it up quite as well as Anthony Robbins dresses it up. Have anyone seen Tony Robbins and his TED Talks? Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jackie. Well, I'm glad you did it. So, Anthony Robbins did a brilliant TED Talk on why we do stuff that we do. But it was the economists, way back 200 years ago, who had the first pop at this. They were a bit curious. They thought, well, why do people do it? Can we predict what people will do? And the very best endeavours, the very best brains of the time came up with something astounding. They came up with this. That was the best they could muster. It's the demand and supply curve. And God, is that exciting. Did you spend many years studying this? And I'll tell you what, it's devilishly simple, but it's hopelessly misguided. It means nothing. It's rubbish. It doesn't work in the real world. So what they did is they handed over to these fun-loving criminals here. They're called psychologists. Your mates. And what they did was they had a pop at it. And they came up with some weird and wonderful things. They came up with something, I can spell it, but I don't know what it is. Superfluidity. They came up with superfluidity. They came up with something which now kind of drives all of marketing. And it goes by this snappy title of consumer behaviour models. And if that doesn't get your blood pumping, nothing will. Consumer behaviour models drive marketing. They try to cause us to do stuff and they try to predict it. And it's based on two key assumptions about human behaviour. Assumption number one is that all human behaviour is predictable. And assumption number two is that all human behaviour is rational. Have you heard of Derren Brown? I'm going to do my own stage bit because Derren Brown would. Derren Brown does what on telly? What, have you ever been to his shows? What does Derren Brown like to try and predict? Anything and everything. He'll never pop at anything. He doesn't care. He just does it. Derren Brown makes predicting look easy. So I'm going to have a snap at it right now with you lovely folks. Given that there's not many people from HR, this will change the outcome a little bit. If it had all been from HR, it would have made this a doddle. But I'm going to have a go at predicting. Right, I've got a prediction. Some of you tonight will go to the pub. Had you all been HR people? Dead easy, you'd have all gone to the pub. If you are going to the pub tonight, some of you will drink beer, some of you will drink wine. And if it was a Friday night, more of you would be going to the pub. Now, he would have got a round of applause for that, wouldn't it? You miserable lot. You see, what I'm not doing is I'm not saying, Andrew, tonight you will go to the pub. I'm just saying some of you. So I'm not really predicting human behaviour. All I'm doing is I'm playing with probability and statistics, and that's not really predicting anything, is it? So maybe human behaviour isn't predictable after all, down to the individual level. That was only one half of the equation. The other bit was rationality. Think very carefully before you answer this question, because what I want you to do, please, is to think about this and answer it. If you think that human behaviour is rational, I'd like you to put your hand up. But remember that in answering it, you are answering whether or not you think you are rational. Right? So do you think that you and human behaviour generally is rational? Stick your hand up if you think it is. One confident, two confident people. He's put his hand back down though, that's fair enough. It went up, it went back down. Do you want to know the truth? Because there is an answer. And there's the answer. The answer is yes and no. That's not a really good answer, is it? So let's put this in context. You might have noticed I'm not a fellow Londoner. And I don't know how much you pay for your fuel around here. But that's petrol price. This is the petrol price at my local garage. And I was filling up my car last night, and as Neville knows what I drive, I don't get to drive past too many garages. I pretty much stop at all of them. I was filling up, and it was a packed forecourt, and I glanced across the forecourt at my fellow car filler-uppers, because that's what we're called, filling up the cars, and I thought, not one person here looks happy. Nobody here looks like they're enjoying the experience of putting this fuel in their car at £1.16 a litre. Why not? And when I went in to pay, there was no one in there coming out, clutching their receipt, going, get in, you beauty. There was none of that. I thought, that's a curious thing, isn't it? Because what I do know is that for this liquid, and by the way, this is the cheap stuff, so if any of you are stopping over tonight, good luck with that, getting that through on expenses. But for the cheap wine, here, you're looking at 31 quid a litre. Now, I am a sophisticated Mancunian, so I do know that the taste's different. But other than that, really, what's the difference? One of them's £1.16 a litre, and one of them's 31 quid a litre. One of them just goes down the sewers and out to sea. The other one at least allows you to get from A to B a little bit, doesn't it? So what is the difference? The difference is pleasure. That's the difference. But what is pleasure? Pleasure's an emotion. And what you need to understand is the journey from good to great. The route of the journey from good to great for each individual is bedded in emotion. And if you don't believe me, because quite frankly I wouldn't believe me either. Are you believing what I'm saying here? Because I can't believe it. The route is not me saying it. If you enjoy reading, this is the stuff that Tim Gallwey in The Inner Game writes about. This is the stuff that Matt Hudson in The Saboteur Within writes about. This is the stuff that, has anyone got the Chimp Paradox? If you've got an old copy, he's Dr. Steve Peters. He's been upgraded. He's Professor Steve Peters now. Woo! And the science behind this. And the science helps you to realise that we can now see that the border, the town limits, the city limits of good. And when you implement this stuff, you get to go into great. Knowing it isn't enough. You've got to do something with it. For the skeptics, here's the science bit. Should have brought the pipe for this and the white coat. We don't smoke. We have pipes in our office when we talk technical stuff, genuinely, because we found that we have a little bit more credibility when we point at things and tap with pipes. You have to be in the office. We also have Nerf guns, but we're not going to that just now. Have we got any brain surgeons in the room? No? Good, I can get to explain this in my language then. So, the front of the brain, I'll keep it simple because I genuinely don't understand it otherwise. This bit of the brain over here, the front bit of the brain, is cunningly known as the frontal cortex. But there's one bit, and the frontal cortex does some amazing things. It looks after our executive functioning and memory and sexy stuff. But it's this bit of the brain which is particularly important. This bit of the brain runs across the brow. It's called the orbital frontal cortex, or OFC for short, on your handout that none of you have written on so far and have completely forgotten about until this very minute. That is the orbital frontal cortex, or the OFC. And the orbital frontal cortex that you now think, what on earth has this got to do with peak performance and good to great? Well, it does two jobs. The orbital frontal cortex has got two really good jobs. The first job is it helps you to make sense of your emotions and the emotions of other people. So if you see a small kid looking a bit sad, you can tell, looking at their face, that they're probably going to cry and they're feeling a bit sad and sorry for themselves. That's part of the role of the orbital frontal cortex. But that's only one part of its job. Its other day job is it helps you to make decisions. And what's really interesting is that because of the ability to understand and express emotions, you are then able to make decisions. It's not two-way traffic, this runs one way. The emotions allow you to make decisions. Now, how do we know that's true? Well, there used to be only one case study on this, like the big case study. Do you remember the name Phineas Gage?
Yeah.
Excellent. There is only one surviving photograph of a poor unfortunate guy, an American guy, who in the early 19th century out in the States had a terrible accident he lived through. I will not go through the gory details because it's not that long since lunch. I'm going to be having some nice grub in a little bit. If you choose to go on the Tinternet, you will find Phineas Gage, P-H-I-N-E-A-S-G-A-G-E, Phineas Gage. Search for him to your heart's content, read the medical notes. What you will learn is that if the orbital frontal cortex is damaged or removed, you can't express your emotions, you can't make decisions. You can search for Phineas Gage. The second case study, you cannot, well, you could have a go at this, but I know what will happen. The second case study just goes by the name Dave. Now, if you search on Google for Dave, I guarantee within 10 minutes you'll be watching old episodes of Top Gear. So I won't bother with that one. So, stick with Phineas Gage if you want to know more. Orbital frontal cortex. What does this mean for good to great? What it means is somebody who is in a positive state of mind, whether naturally or induced or influenced. If somebody is in a positive state of mind, if they are in a happy mood, they are able to do things that you're not able to do if you're in a neutral or a miserable mood. These people, you, when you're in a positive mood, will ask more questions. You will understand more information. You will understand more complex information. You will be more adventurous. You will be more curious. You will do things that you wouldn't normally do. You will do things you normally do in a way that you wouldn't normally do them. You will kick into touch phrases like, well, we always do it like that round here. That's the way we've always done it. Your brain will not accept it. A positive brain is a peak performance brain. And again, don't believe me, Tim Gallwey, Matt Hudson, Steve Peters. It make careers out of this stuff. And I'm sharing it with you. But there is a challenge that goes with this. Because my challenge for you, part one, is what's the stuff that you could do to cause you, your colleagues, your team members, your company generally, to be on this green line in a happy mood. What is the stuff you could do? Now, part two to the challenge is, what's the stuff you could do that won't blow all the budgets? Because that's the trick. And you're thinking, these are rhetorical questions, aren't they, Mike? No, they're not. Because I've got a microphone and I'm not frightened to use it. I don't know how you use it, but I'm not frightened to use it. Let me flick this. Hello? No. We don't need it. Forget it. I reckon you're loud enough anyway. So, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to have a think, and while you're thinking about stuff that you can do without blowing the bank, without blowing the budget, and then within those 30 seconds, my good friend Neville will be on your table saying, give us your answer then. So you've got 30 seconds, guys. Off you go. What you can do to cause your colleagues or yourself to be on a positive mood so that they go from good to great. Who could switch it on and give it to Nev? That'd be lovely. Neville's pointing in a confident manner. We have an answer, sir. We've got one, guys. Get ready for this one.
I think this is going to be probably the most astounding answer you're likely to hear today.
Pens poised, write this down, number one.
Big pens.
Cakes.
You, my friend, should work in our office. We like cakes. As you can see, we like cakes. Was that an answer from over here as well? Brilliant. If you've written cakes down, two things. One, you're a genius. Two, invite us to your office, right? The serious bit here, and we have a little tool that helps with this, is if you bear in mind that we want to get people on the green line, we want to get them in a positive state of mind. Even if you're yawning, I'm going to share this with you, I don't mind. You need to ensure that the stuff you're going to do is going to give really good value. It's going to be high value, this stuff over here. But it has to be low cost. Now, the danger, of course, is that you go for some of this fancy dance stuff up here in the red box. So you decide, what we'll do is, we need to have silk handrails and all of our banisters going up all of our stairs. It's going to cost you a fortune. It is not going to add value. There is a bottled water that you can buy if you see fit. It is $60,000 US for 3/4 of a litre. By all means, buy that and make cups of tea for everybody. You might as well pull that first, but it's true. It's going to stick you in here. So what you need to think about, and what Nev's going to challenge you on, is some more of this green stuff.
Okay, guys, what have we got? I'm going to come around the tables. What else have we got? What else could you do to put people on that green line? What are the big things that are going to help people get into that positive emotional state?
Praise people.
Praise people. Brilliant. So how far does that go? Just a simple act of praising somebody. It does. And how often do people do that? Exactly, straight away. What else we got? Something like that. I don't need that. What else we got?
Show them what value they add to the business.
Simple as show them what value they add to the business. How often do you stand back and discuss with your team? And how great do you feel when somebody does that with you? This is the value that you are adding to our business. Brilliant one. One at the back. Go on.
Make them feel a member of this organization, but not a number of the organization.
Exactly. Member of a team. Love them and hug them and squeeze them and call them George. Is that all right? Can we look at them? No? Okay. But not a number. They're actually part of a team, and that's the important bit. One at the back.
Take them out to meet customers so they can see what they kind of do interacts with.
We don't let people out of the office to see customers. Why would we do that?
In the wrong time.
Brilliant. No. What a brilliant idea. Get out. Those that are at head office that never see anybody, get out and go and see people. Get in front of them. Build a relationship. Why wouldn't you do that? Any more for any more? We've got some brilliant ideas here. What else could you do that's going to put people in that brilliant positive state but not break the bank? Go on, one last one in that corner. That was a very confident, I've got a brilliant one. I need to tell you about it. Standing up and everything. Go on then.
It is amazing. On a Friday, we have a communal cuddle in the morning in the studio, and we're all in it.
Whoa! I like these ones down here.
If they've got cakes, I'm going there.
A communal cuddle. Okay, so moving on. Jackie, where did you find this thought from? Wait, just check. Hey, if that works for you, I'm not a hugger, but I'm learning. You know, I'm learning.
Practice anytime.
Ah, there you go, you see. I'll just stand at the side. That's all right. When I stand here. So, we're thinking about the journey from good to great. And I want to know what that journey might look like specifically for you. So if we're thinking about getting rid of all those things that we don't want to do anymore, and if we're thinking about moving away from that bad state of just being good, but trying to achieve great, what does that actually mean to you? And what I want you to think about, and you've got your hand out, so you want to write this down. Who for you encapsulates greatness? It could be a famous business person, an athlete, a sports person, politician. Probably not a politician, but you know what I mean. There will be somebody somewhere that you will think that person encapsulates greatness. And one of the simple things you can do to move away from good and move closer to being great is just observe what they do. And this is a fancy term, is modelling. Just look at what somebody does that you think is great and borrow their ideas. Observe their behaviours, see what they do, and start replicating it. Because it's really, really easy. Just look at the things that you think, yeah, they're really good because they do this. How do I take a step towards doing that? And it's been mentioned this morning, actually. Mentioned earlier on, and it's a phrase that we hear all the time. It's just a little bit about practicing what you do. Because you all know what practice makes, don't you? What does practice make? Shout that out. Shout it, come on. What does practice make? No, it doesn't. It's a really, really big myth that practice will make perfect. Because if you practice all the wrong stuff, you're going to be perfectly bad, aren't you? Practice will make permanent. So what you need to do is understand what great is and start practicing those things that will make you permanently great. So emulate those around you, understand what other people do, and understand how you might borrow, recycle, and make your own their ideas. Mike's talked a bit about the brain. He understands far more about the brain than I do. But one of the things that really interests me on this journey from good to great is how much influence our unconscious mind has on that journey. Now, because it's our unconscious mind, that causes us all sorts of issues, because things are happening that we're not even aware of. There's little things happening in our brain that are saying to us, do you know what? Don't want to do that. And because it's our unconscious brain, we're not even aware that that's happening. And Mike's mentioned a couple. We work with Matt Hudson quite regularly. He's written The Saboteur Within. If you want to find out about all the assumptions and learned behaviours and all the things that get embedded when we're just all small kids, have a read of that book. It's a brilliant book, because you start to realise and you start to spot those things that stop you doing things. And they can be the massive barriers in the journey from good to great. You mentioned Steve Peters as well. I still want to call him doctor, not professor. That just sounds better to me, I don't know why. But that bit, and I'm sure you've experienced this. We had quite a few drivers, didn't we? Have you all experienced road rage at least once? Yeah? It's good folks. Yes, loads of times. Yeah, if you've experienced that road rage, you know when you reflect on it the following day, you go, that was just absolutely stupid. Or you know when you have that really big emotional outburst at somebody, unexpectedly, you just blow your top and say, ah! Have a read of Stephen Peters' Chimp Paradox. You'll understand why you do some of the things that you don't want to do. Because we never want to do those things. We don't want to get involved with road rage or lose a temper or blow our tops. But we all do at some point. So there are some keys to unlocking that by looking and understanding the unconscious mind. And actually the whole mind piece gets really interesting. There's a really interesting expression, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're probably right. Henry Ford. Just think about that for 2 seconds. The attitude that you take into anything you do has a significant impact on the outcome. Does that make some sense? Yes? You've all been dead, kind and placid, and I'm now going to get you up and doing stuff. I did ask Jackie, and Jackie, we're absolutely fine to do the conga, yeah? We're out the doors, down the stairs, back round, up the lift. We're going to do the, no? Okay, I'll do something different. I'm going to do a tiny little bit of interactive, and I want everybody to participate in this if they can. I'm going to give you a little few scenarios, and I'd like to know whether these things, you feel comfortable doing them, and if you feel comfortable doing them, just stay in your seats because you're nice and comfortable. But if any of the things I mentioned you're not comfortable with, you wouldn't like, might even freak you out a bit, can you stand up and tell me that you wouldn't be comfortable? I just want to see what fits where. Is that okay? We go with that? We're doing the rules? So if you're comfortable with these things, you stay seated. If you're not comfortable, you're going to stand up and go, oh, I'm not comfortable with that. And I promise I won't pick on anybody. Honest. So the first thing, if I asked you to hold a 10-foot snake, if you'd be comfortable with that, can you stay in your seats? If you're uncomfortable, this chap here was already on his feet. Whoa!
Is it poisonous?
Yes. Oh, only a few more. Mike, bring the snake in, okay? We've got a few that have with the snake. Okay, do you want to sit yourselves back down? What about if I asked you to abseil from the top of this building? It's only 14 stories high, so if I asked you, oh, straight up at the back there, stand up if that wouldn't make you feel comfortable, abseiling from the top of this building. Oh, three, oh, it's creeping. I don't mind standing up now. Okay. What about taking over this presentation right now? If I said to you, I've got a few more slides to deliver, can you crack on? Who would feel comfortable with that? Stay seated. Who would feel completely uncomfortable? Please stand up. Sorry? David, sitting down, do you want to take it over? Crack on. Great stuff, sit yourselves back down. What about if I asked you to go diving with sharks?
Not the sharks, it's the water.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't mind sharks, but fish really freak me out. Okay, okay. And then the last one, if I asked you to jump out of a plane. I'll give you a parachute, by the way, but, you know, jumping out of a plane, what do you think? That, you know, that face down there was... Do what? Brilliant. Oh, yeah, sneak little... Okay, sit yourself down. Now, isn't that quite weird? I mean, Jackie said you were a bit weird when we came down, but, you know. Isn't that really weird? Because we're all doing things very differently. So some folks instantly stood up. There was a couple of examples there where folks were straight up on their feet. And actually think about those 5 things I gave you. 4 of those things have an imminent and very close link to physical danger and harm. Yeah? 4 of them did. And 1 of them didn't. And nearly, I think it was the most popular one for making people feel uncomfortable, was the presentation. And the presentation, I'm really sorry to tell you this, is never going to kill you. Nobody ever dies standing up in here doing this. Folks die abseiling, swimming with sharks, parachuting. They do, and that's the weird bit. But our brain forces ourselves back to good, yeah, and away from great, because it has this primitive reaction. It's called the limbic brain. The basic bit of our brain that's designed to keep us alive has this effect, and it's known as your comfort zone. You're all familiar with comfort zones? So here's what we think of comfort zones. Your true potential exists outside of your current comfort zone. And if you want to move away from being good and move closer to being great, you're going to have to do some stuff that's challenging. You can't do the same stuff that you did yesterday as you do tomorrow. You need to go out and change what you do. That's as simple as that. And if you exist inside your comfort zone, there's nothing new to learn, nothing new to do, nowhere for you to develop. And actually, Mike and I run a training company. One of the things that really interests us when people come to us and say, you know, I want to develop, I want to move forward, I want to do something new, I want to do something different, they always want the most sexy, brand new, what's the latest research, give me all the fancy new stuff. Is that right? You want all the fancy new clever stuff? Which is good, and we love that as a company. That's the great bit for us to deliver. But actually it's this. It's just doing the basics. how many of us reflect and think, oh, what are the basics? We talk about reflective practice. As a teacher, teachers are taught reflective practice. What went well, what can I do better? Well, actually, look at the basics first. You might not think this to look at me, but I was playing five-a-side on Tuesday night, and I happened to be playing against a team that had my nephew in the opposition. And my nephew is probably 10 or 15 times better at football than me. I've never been able to play football. I just run around for a bit of exercise. And he's 21, and he's fit, and he's agile, and he's kind of everything I'm not really. But what was very interesting was he was full of little clever little moves and flicking the ball about and rolling it over his feet. And I thought, wow, that's fantastic. And about 50% of the time, when I tackled him, I took the ball off him. And I can't kick a football with my left foot. I'm a terrible footballer. But all I did was the basic of, I'll just watch the ball. No matter what he does, I'll just watch the ball and take it off him. Because that's the basics in football. And how many times on this journey from good to great do you need to stop back and think, what are the basics? What are the fundamental things that I need to do to help me achieve this? How well do I communicate with people? How well do I interact with others? We talked about success this morning, achieving success. Do we even know what we're striving towards? A fundamental, a basic tenet of what we're trying to achieve. Do you know where you want to be? And do you know where you are right now? So do the basics and do them extraordinarily well. Now, I've talked about one great athlete. That wasn't supposed to be a laugh. Another great athlete. Have you everybody heard of Michael Phelps? Swimmer? Yeah, I think we'll put him in that bracket. I want to talk about a very specific case. 2008, the Beijing Olympics. Okay? He was doing that funny swimming bit, the butterfly. I don't get that. That's just waving your arms about as far as I can tell. But he was doing the butterfly, and it was the final. And as he dove in, his goggles moved a bit, and he got some water in. So some swimmers would have thought, well, I need to do something different here. How am I going to cope with this? What special things can I put in place to make sure I achieve and get to the end of the race and actually finish this thing? But what Michael Phelps did was he thought, well, actually, what are the basics? What are the fundamental things I need to achieve? And apparently, when you research this, that waving your arm bit is called a windmill. And he thought back to his very early days of training, and he remembered it was 10 windmills from one end of the pool to the other. So he thought, well, I can't really see. He said at 150 metres, I couldn't even see the wall. So all he did was just, well, if I do 10 of them and turn round and come back, I'll be doing okay. And he did okay, he finished the race. And he won the race. And he got a new Olympic record. And all he had to do was go back to the absolute basics and focus on them. And most of us forget that. It's dead easy to kind of think, oh, what are the complex stuff? Look at the basics and what can I do to help myself on that journey. Set yourself some time. We should have talked about this first. I'm about to talk about reflective practice, but I won't anymore. A colleague of mine, Dr. Leslie Hunter, gave a tip this week, and her tip this week was spend 5 minutes today thinking about everything you did yesterday. What did I do well? What could I improve? Spend 5 minutes a day, that's half an hour a week. That's 2 hours a month of in-depth personal development. Make some time to do this stuff. It's very easy to say, oh, I need to do all this stuff, I need to achieve greatness, I need to forget all that bad stuff and move away from just being good. But if we don't allocate time, it just isn't going to happen. And if you set in some time, tell other people about your plans, tell other folks about what you want to achieve, and get them on board. Because we can't do this on our own. We need help. And just a quick show of hands, who here is really good at asking for help? Well, I'd say that's what, about a third of the room? Yeah? Who here has any sort of a coach? Oh, that's less than a third of the room. And who here has a mentor? Okay, we've got some of the fab DLC mentors here as well. All those people will help you. And why the funny picture up here? What's this got to do with anything? Well, individually, Mike and I really believe that folks exist often with their problems inside a box. And you've probably experienced this. You know when a friend comes to you with that insurmountable problem, that big complex thing that they can't get round and can't get over, it's because they're in a box with a problem. And they bring it to you and you think, well, this is obvious. All you need to do is this and this and this. Or you could do that, or why not that? Because you don't exist in the box with the problem. You're outside and you're going to help them out of that box and see the problem differently. Nobody makes this journey away from good and towards great without a helping hand. Get people involved, get them on side, and get them to help you out. And the key now is to start unlocking your personal potential and to really understand about all the things that you can achieve. And one of the fundamentals is confidence. Would you all like a bit more confidence? Really? Come on, give me a little bit here. This is hard work. We all like some more confidence? Yes. Are you sure about that? Yeah, I'm not sure. Let me just check. Yes. Okay. To get some confidence to help you on this journey, just a few tips and a few things to think about. We've talked about doing the basics. We've talked about modelling, looking at folks that are achieving this already and replicating some of the things they do. We mentioned TED Talks. How many folks know about TED Talks? Okay. For those of you who don't, you might want to scrub this down. TED Talks is an online resource of some of the best speakers around the world talking about business, personal, self-development, some funny, some serious, some really kind of intense. And it's a free resource with all the best speakers you might possibly ever come across. Has anybody heard of Amy Cuddy? Okay. Last one. Anybody heard of Wonder Woman? Brilliant. Great. Doesn't make much more sense. Amy Cuddy does a TED Talk. Google it and have a look, where she talks about confidence. And she does something very specific to help people have confidence. And she calls it the power pose. Okay? And it's the don't laugh, it's the Wonder Woman pose. Feet slightly apart, on the hips, standing up nice and straight, and you need to do that for 2 minutes. And it works, it's a genuine thing. What happens is it reduces the cortisol in your body, and cortisol is the stress hormone, and whether you are male or female, it increases the testosterone. And that gives you confidence. That's the confidence boosting hormone that goes around your body. Just by standing like this, and I use this all the time. Do you have to be clothed? Well, I have to be clothed because this lot would be really upset. And you don't need to be in front of a mirror. I use this quite regularly. Yeah, that poor bloke, I'm not going to point out who was next to me in the urinals earlier on, thought, what the hell's he doing? Hi. But seriously, it really works. If you want to go out and want that instant boost of confidence, the power pose will do you the world of good. And I mentioned it earlier on, your limbic brain, your basic brain, is designed to just remember all the bad stuff. It's designed to keep you alive. So think back to primitive man, and we're all kind of quite primitive, really, whether we like it or not. And what that means is we tend to, as a primitive brain, it's really important that the primitive brain remembers the stuff that might kill us. Yeah? So as a cave person, if we went out and ate some red berries and then it nearly killed us, it is really important that our brain remembers that. If we go out and have a nice day by the beach, that's just inconsequential. But if it remembers the things that nearly kill us, that's really important to survival as a species. Which is brilliant for surviving as a species. But right now, we don't face a lot of threat. I'm going to take you back, when I asked you to take over the presentation, everyone went, oh, I'm not doing that. That's what happens. Your brain gives that same fight or flight response to something that's never going to kill you. Standing up in here and talking isn't going to kill you, but your brain looks at it in the same way and says, oh, don't want to do that. Don't feel comfortable. And actually what we need to do is recognize where those barriers are coming up and start unlocking them by saying, hey, do you know what? I recognize this is holding me back. I'm going to boost my confidence. I'm going to remember the good stuff. And whenever we talk to people, it's amazing how many folks just forget all the good stuff that happened. So we have one client, what they do, they have a jar on their desk and they have lots of pebbles around this jar. If it's a good day, they drop a white pebble in. If it's a bad day, they drop a black pebble. At the end of the week, they shake the jar, more white than black. They keep it going for a whole month and have a look at it and go, actually, this month's been a good month. Because if you just try and think back what's happened this month, your brain, your unconscious brain, your limbic brain, will just remember the bad stuff. And that's not going to help you. We in the office, if you come to our office for a coffee, it's always open, come in for a coffee. On our whiteboards, we write down very often the best thing that happened this week. And it's funny because every time you come to it, there's nothing happened. Nothing good's happened this week. Oh, actually, we were in that big client. And we got that sorted. And we got that. And just reflecting once a week on all the brilliant stuff that you've achieved really can help you, give you the confidence to move on in that journey, to kick away from good and start embracing great. And I'm sad to tell you it's all about activity. All these things are fantastic. All these talks and ideas and really kind of inspirational messages that are coming out from everybody who's talked to you today are all really powerful. But if you choose to do nothing with them, you're not going to change what you do, are you? Activity will breed opportunity for you. If you're ready to go out and embrace this and do something a bit differently and move outside of your comfort zone, then you'll be able to take that step forward, move away from good and move towards great.